What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Scholar Social. I am Jonah Ruffin.
I'm Jayla Jackson.
I'm Daya Brown.
I'm Sanaya Edwards.
And I'm Zayla Bryant.
How y'all feeling today?
I feel good.
Pretty good.
We're like killed with our pastels on.
You know how we do. Right. The style's always coming through for us.
Okay.
And that's just that.
For y'all.
Yeah.
For y'all.
I'm
For y'all looking homeless.
Child, anyways.
Bye.
Law. I'm 17 years old. As you know this. Sorry, I want to talk about this. You know, I kind of want to talk about what is a child's role. Because for me, that my responsibilities are changing as I'm getting older. But I don't understand necessarily why or how. Like, what responsibilities are mine versus my parent. So can we like dissect that?
Yeah.
Yes. This is a really, really interesting topic, and it's so much to dissect here, and it's very multifaceted.
It definitely has plagued children for centuries.
Right.
So if it's okay with y'all,
Let's talk about it.
I think first we need to dissect, like, how are we defining parent?
Okay.
How are we defining child? Right?
Okay.
Because some people believe that, you know, when you're turn 18, you are no longer, you're an adult now and but you are still somebody's child.
Right.
Yeah.
Technically. So I think we need to make those distinctions, and they seem small, but I feel like, in my opinion, they're important.
And then also going off of that, I think we need to define like a universal role of parents. Of course, there's going to be differences in parent depending on the child, depending on the parent's history, depending on their past and stuff. But a fundamental law that rule that all parents should abide by to be qualified as a parent. Not only that, but at what age range should you have certain restrictions? At what age range should you be let go and let free?
I think that can be problematic though sometimes.
It can.
Because by law, they're only required to do like certain, like literally provide you clothes, water, shelter, and schooling.
The necessities.
Like the necessities.
Right.
So all the things that we are challenged with when it comes to parenting are all kind of like extra, but they're necessities at the same time.
Right.
So
It's like
that's
wanting.
very-
Yeah, and like,
Because I think with what we're looking for here, because the disconnect comes with the actual bond you have between a parent and a child. Not rather if you're giving, if they're not giving you necessity, because that's a whole different conversation. It's about the psychological nature of what's going on between a child or their parent.
Because if we're honest, forging a relationship with your parents is a task in and of
It
itself.
is.
It is voluntary. So you guys both have to make the conscious decision to want to know more about each other or understand one another to really get that relationship that you deserve. Not deserve, but that works best for you all's dynamic.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think that before we even get into any of that, I think that we need to look at the basics here. Like, what is a child's role? What is a parent's role? We need to like...
I was just about to say, I was thinking about like the difference in saying, like, as a parent, you can be 30 years old, right? My grandma could tell my dad, "You're my child," versus him being a child. Because he is definitely a grown man.
Right.
But he is always somebody's child. That's why I wanted to make a distinction.
Yes.
Because child can be defined as, you know, anybody's son or daughter, or it can be defined as somebody who has not gone through the process of puberty or maturity, or who is technically by law a minor.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Fundamentally, what we should be saying here, so children, of course, but like you said, by law, adolescents.
Right.
So what we need to be saying here is daughter, son, because you will always be someone's daughter or son.
Right. Okay. I think that we need to like start with what I said. I feel like we haven't still laid out the foundation of what's a child's role and what's a parent's role.
Right.
Okay, so can we break it up, right?
Yeah.
If you are a child, as in adolescence, you have not gone through puberty, you are technically still a minor by law, right? Let's do what is the role, and we can go around. What is the role of that child versus you being 30 years old and you're still somebody's child, but you are not a child?
Oh wow, you remember.
Okay.
We'll
let's start off with here. I think right now, as an adolescent, at the ages of, newborn to 18 years old, there always needs to be some form of respect within the lines of a child's role. And respecting your elders, per se, always has to be the case. So that's a key value in this case. But I think once you get older, 31 years old, you have to actually start taking the mantle of saying, hey, I actually have to take care for you now. Because our parents are actually starting to age eventually.
So you're saying the roles reverse.
The roles then reverse. And that's where the disconnect happens with most, because they're like, oh my God, everybody's trying to be empowered here, and a lot of parents don't know how to handle that, and that's why a lot of fallouts happen when it's time to take your parents to nursing homes or when it's time to move into your own home. And that's a very crucial time in your life as a 30-year-old person trying to start a family, a career, and all this stuff is happening at once, and your parents are still aging.
Okay, well, if we bring it back to like us and our age group, I think this is a time where we stop calling them mommy and daddy and like realizing that these are individual people that have problems.
These are humans.
These are humans. These are whole individuals. Like, I did not know that you had a life before me.
Agreed.
And so that's when you start looking at that, and you start really realizing that this person has flaws.
Yeah.
Mommy is not a superhero.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy because that's where I think a lot of the disconnect happens, because we don't know our parents. And I know for me to have any kind of bond with you, I want to know you. I want to know you in any way you allow me to. So that's a vulnerable state.
Right. Yeah. Because I think that going into that, trauma from what our parents have gone through before us affects how they parent.
Yes.
So I think that we need to understand and be knowledgeable about the things that our parents went through, so we can understand their parenting style.
But to bring it back to
the
child's road, I think that the child has to be open, definitely, to listening
and understanding.
Our child, like you said, our parents have dealt with trauma. Our parents have dealt with experience, so we have to be open to listening.
Parents are people,
right?
Parents are human. Right.
On the reverse of that, parents also have to be willing to be that open.
Get into the parent role.
I know, yes. For me, when I was like 13 years old or whatever, me and my mom were going like through friction. Call it like, what do they call it? When I call it the dark ages.
Yeah,
dark ages. And like she was stopping herself from telling me the truth.
Yeah.
And that's where our struggle came from. I'm literally saying, tell me what is going on, and she would not.
Going off of that, I'm so sorry. But I'm so sorry. Going off of that, the thought of adolescence and how many lies I was told as an adolescent, literally, when I found out Santa wasn't real, literally I was in 7th grade, and I was like so shocked I cried. Like that, like
7th grade. Bye.
Stop, guys. Are y'all really bullying me?
I'm not.
Anyways, I was 11 turning 12.
You thought a fat white man was really crawling through your children.
Wait a minute. And
that clothes shouldn't be as
No, and my parents made it sound
How good
so
was the
real.
lie?
No, but going off of that, like the stuff that we believe as adolescents, and then when we grow up, it becomes false, and we take all this hope that we had and things that we learned.
But I think that's really a beautiful sight to see, because I was telling my mom this last year during Christmas time. I'm over here buying gifts, and I'm like, dang, my mom really made this magical for me back in the day. I'm like, it was a beautiful sight to see, and seeing that now I'm doing it for like my little brother, or just even getting gifts for friends and families. It's a beautiful feeling.
Right.
And so I'm like, dang, our parents do so much to protect us. And maybe the truth is hindering us from what we're scared to even go through.
About to say, I don't know why, and I ask my parents, but I've never really been one to let me know what's going on. I want to be in the know. Don't tell me.
Same. That's me too. That's so me.
You don't gotta tell me.
I was gonna come back.
Now, my parents end up telling me, right, which is just our relationship, because the reason why I'm so opinionated and probably advanced on certain things, because I was in conversations about, okay, we can afford a new home, but should we get a new home? Because we got to think about, colleges, and then, the younger kids leaving, and I'm a part of these conversations, right? And it's helping prep me for life.
Yeah.
But I don't want to know.
But I have a question.
But I think
it's
next. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
I think that it's important that as kids, like, I get it. You want to be in the know. You want to know certain things. And yes, it is true that what parents are going through and what parents have gone through and are going through will affect their parenting. But I think we have to be comfortable with just not knowing certain things. My parents were probably going through stuff that I did not know was happening. Right. But I could tell that their energy was off.
Right.
I could tell that they were going through something, so I acted accordingly. I don't need to know what you're going through.
Right.
The only reason why I asked, though, is because whatever's going on is affecting me and her relationship.
Yes.
That is why I asked. I don't ask because I'm like,
And I think
but have you ever thought that you having that knowledge can further hinder it.
But
I think no, but it's different for me.
Is it the child's responsibility
actually,
to be there for the parent when the parent's going through stuff? Because you just said that you had to act accordingly, but is it that child's responsibility?
But I think a lot of the times, what happens when it's literally put right in front of you without even asking? Because I know a lot of my traumatic experiences, I found out on my own by happenstance. And I'm like, dog, I don't know how to do this. Like, now I got to know the truth because it's literally in my face.
Right. And to Daya's point, I think that hinders a parent and a child's relationship, because if you can't even trust me enough to tell me what's going on in my family, then what am I supposed to do?
I think
but also I agree with Jayla's. I agree, because what you don't know, you don't need to know.
You don't need to know all the time.
And I think that's a valid point, but it becomes what Zayla said, when it affects y'all's relationship, then therefore you need to be telling me what's
But there's a separation of a child. I'm sorry, I'll pass it on. Okay. I feel like there's a separation of a child. I hate the word of the child's place, because when my parents say it, but child's place and an adult's place. Personally, I feel like I don't need to know about the bill, the exact money of the bills, the exact money we're spending here, the exact money like that. I feel like that's adult business. Of course, I'm gonna have to learn how to take care of my own mental, but I don't need to know every single financial. If we're losing money, if we're raising money, I don't need to know that. I feel like that's being in a child's place. You don't need to ask. Well, personally for me, I don't need to ask, oh, what's this? With your job.
Yeah, because I have a lot of friends who are put in situations where they have to provide in some form of way because it's no longer a choice. Like, you have to be put in situations where, hey, maybe your mama cannot provide to get you to college. Okay, how you gonna get there? I'm gonna work my butt off to get every scholarship out the way.
If I can bounce off of that, and this is why I had a problem with what you were saying, Jonah, at the front part, is because kids can be like buttholes sometimes.
They can.
And let a mother, be vulnerable with her child and explain that, either we don't have it financially right now or something like that. And I've seen it happen before. Yeah. Kids use stuff against their parents when they see fit.
Yeah, because they truly do not understand.
And that's what I'm saying. I get what you guys are saying, but I'm like, we are extremely mature. I would not advise people to, parents, tell your kids what's going on with the kids, demand to know. Like, no.
But it's also not a burden of the kid. You're telling me bills. Oh, you cost this much. You doing something that I love. Right. It's costing this much. I personally feel like that's a burden. If I have to hear every single day that you're sacrificing, I understand that you're sacrificing, and I appreciate that. But if I have to hear every single day I'm costing you this much money, and you're sacrificing being getting a car or getting something new because of me, and I'm doing something that I love, but you don't want to take me out of it. Like that, I feel like that's a burden.
That's a burden. I agree. It is a burden. I agree. Putting that weight on your child, it really hurts. Like because making, like, say for instance, I'm doing something that I love, and my parents are supporting me, but like it costs a little bit of money, and they're like, oh, you're taking up so much of our money. You need to do this. You need to do that because you're so expensive. Like, that makes me feel like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't.
But I think this is where the compromise meets, because I think we're always not going to get our way when it comes to a relationship with our parents. My relationship with my mom might be quite different than the relationship I have with my dad, or let's say if you have a stepdad or a stepmom. It's always going to be very complex. But I think the compromise here is that we are gaining this information, gaining this experience of what not to do or what we should do when it comes time to build a family if we decide to.
But I feel like, can we really go back unto the role of a child and the role of a parent? Yeah. For me, I get your definition tonight, and but for me personally, my role as a child is that my parents technically have 18 years to prep me for the world. Yeah. And I know that if nobody else in this world wants the best for me, it's my parents. Right. I don't think for a second that my parents want ill harm for me. And so it's like I do buck at my parents sometimes, but I have to remind myself these are probably the only people in the world who are going to love me unconditionally.
Right. Well, me, of course. Right. But like,
and I get that. My thing is,
so I'm like, I have 18 years to get all the knowledge.
But I have a question about that. I have a question about that. What happens? Go ahead, and then I can ask my question.
I was just really curious because, like, what we're talking about, where this friction comes from, is from us wanting to not be protected anymore. Because the world is opening our eyes to things that we don't understand quite yet. So we're going to the sources that love us the most that can break it down for us. And if you can't, I want to know. Like, I want to know because it's not just you anymore.
Right.
That can introduce it to me. I'd rather go through a source that loves me than to go through like life.
Right, because
to go through life.
Because like you said, this 18 years, they have 18 years to prepare us. A lot of people don't have that. So what happens when it comes to a time, like somebody can be watching this podcast right now, what happens when that unconditional love is not there?
Right.
And how do they maneuver through that? That's my question to your point.
Okay, and I definitely I understand that.
Right.
That is for some people that is not the home life archetype, right?
Yeah.
I am fortunate enough for that to be my situation, but as Zayla has said it best on a previous podcast, sometimes you get role models and sometimes you get people you don't want to be like.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it pains me to say this because I really am fortunate to have a great home life. But for people where that is not the situation, if that hurts, if that is painful, if that is harmful, if you want that relationship, but your parent is not putting in the effort to get that, when you get your family and when you have your kids, you need to make sure that everything that pains you, everything that hurts you does not repeat.
And also, I think that, like, with that point, also, I agree with what y'all both said. But we also have to look at the other side of it. What happens with parents that are overprotective? They're not ever giving their child room to make mistakes. They're not letting their child experience life,
Going off of Jonah's point, I believe, like, being overprotective, it has to be... it comes from fear. Like, you have fear of letting your child go. Maybe you have an attachment that you just can't break that piece apart from you. But you also have to know, you have to let your child experience things. You have to let your child go through these challenges, and you have to let your child fail for themselves so they know how to get themselves back up.
I think that fear actually is really instilled with the parents. They're scared of even failing. They feel like, I think a lot of overprotective parents, it's a lot of comparing their child with their friend's child, or trying to, that kind of thing. But I think what's instilled in them is the fear of failing as a parent that is making them overprotective.
I'm on the.
But it's also, it's such habits as well.
Parent side for this, and I get it. As a child, having an overprotective parent is annoying, right? Listen, but at the same time, there are things we don't know that we don't know. So I'm like, I don't completely agree that overprotective parents are, have this fear. I get it. Let your children fail. They got to fall on their face, all of that. But there are some consequences that mess you up for life.
Yes, that's understandable. But I feel, and then I'll pass.
And you think that, if I do this, if I fail here, it's not going to be that big. You don't know the impact. You are young.
Okay, but that
they may see effects that you don't see.
That's understandable. But me, I feel like it's different, because then why are other parents not overprotective? Why do they, and their kids turn out perfectly? Well, nobody's perfect, but we don't know what's happening at home. But their kids end up, from what I see, being successful. They end up being probably not stable, but they end up like working hard, and they end up being well. So you can still have two different parents,
but some parents know their kids.
I'm sorry.
Some parents know their kids.
Yeah, some parents know their kids. It's different for everybody, so I wouldn't compare my parental relationship to Jayla and her parents' parental relationship, because they're not the same. You know why? Because we're different people.
Prime example.
They're different people.
Right? The way my parents parent me is different than every one of my siblings, and we all have the same parent.
Yeah.
Right.
But because we're different as people, like my parents do have a lax parenting style with me, right? But it's because of who I am as a person. Right. When they're more hands on with some of my siblings, but it's because of who they are as a person. Same goal, to prep my kid for life. I want them to succeed, right? But you know your child,
right? Yeah. But
go ahead.
Okay. But I don't necessarily know how I feel about that, because I think that experience is the best teacher. I think that is, I've always stood by that. I've said that before in other podcasts. Experience is the best teacher. Life is the best teacher. Your experiences are going to...
the lessons life teaches, you end up in jail.
But my thing is, say
death. Those are some of the lessons.
But you won't even know, because I'd rather experience something that could detriment me in the future now than when I'm in the future.
Kids would never
listen.
Listen.
I think so. I think I would rather experience something now that I know that I'm not going to like in the future now than in the future.
Okay, wait. So are you saying like I'd rather experience something harm in the comfort of my not comfort of my home, under the protection of my parents?
As a teen, whether when I'm out on my own,
and
having
going off of experience, I believe that maybe you can experience those things with your parent. I don't know if it was Tupac or not, so I'm not going to say the name. Oh, I just said okay. But some parent smoked weed with their child, right? And they smoke weed, so they know what it is when it's not laced and what it is when it's laced, or something like that. When it's like, so you experience it. So when you have laced, I don't know all the fundamentals of it. Do you know what's not in?
Okay, I want to clarify that these parents are not giving their children laced weed. Okay,
no. But I'm saying that you can experience with your child some experience, or you can put your child.
But hold on, is that right there? Say it again. Safety net.
Safety net. Yes.
Hold on. No, ma'am.
No,
you will not.
No, ma'am. What?
You will not badger. You will not take your think your parents are just so annoying. Oh my gosh, leave me alone. When they try to tell you, and then you get into it anyway, and then come to your parents to be your safety net.
I know.
No, you will not.
I think that's a part of parenting. You have to be prepared for your child to do that.
I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. Okay. But the idea that, let me fail now while I have a safety net. And we just talked about, there are literal kids out there who do not have that. I think it is so disrespectful when kids take that for granted. Like, oh, I'm going to go out here and do whatever I want because I know my parents got me. And what if they did it?
I think it's different. I think it's different, but with doing, let me go out and like do bad things because I know my parents got me, rather than, I just want to experience life, and then something doesn't go right, and then you have to fall back on your parents. Being intentional and not being intentional are two different things.
What are you trying to say, Zayla?
I was just trying to say, like, the reason why they do that experimenting outside of what you have told them is because you haven't told them something. And I think that it is worth taking into consideration if I, as a child, am coming to you with the fact that I want to know more. Yeah. I think that is the biggest inclination, that I'm willing to take the responsibility of what comes out your mouth.
Because I think, I know with me personally, if I don't know certain things, I'm honestly scared, dog. Because with me, this stuff runs in my blood. And I'm trying to prevent it, but that's a whole different conversation. Generational cycles, that's what it is. Literally. And so the truth comes out, like when I say, next podcast. But when I say like, hey, certain stuff I found out the most traumatizing experiences on my own without even asking. And in a lot of the cases, kids are just put in the situations. And so that's where I'm like, okay, sometimes truth is needed. I need truth, because if I don't have truth, I feel like I'm just walking in this path of being scared.
Right. And bouncing off of Dea, I understand we're talking about overprotective, but I also want to talk about the other hand. What about children who are neglected all the time? People who don't have parents who are there even as a safety net for when they fail, and they were told that you're going to fail.
I would ask, why are they being neglected? Like, for my mother's parents,
that's so hyper specific, though.
Well, I think that's very slippery slope.
Wait. No, I want to fix the neglect, but like more hands off parenting, I would say. Because certain people are hands off because they trust their child to do what's right. And some people are hands off because they honestly, can't. I don't know. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a great distinction. If you are a hands off parent and your child don't do right,
it needs to be some revision here.
So it's really weird. Because the only reason why I think that these distinctions are important are because when you know your child or what they are capable of doing, or what they like, whatever, you know what I mean, their inklings, their inclinations, right. You start to see what boundaries they are. I mean, hold on,
what do you have to say?
You start to see, remember when I said it's worth taking into consideration when a child comes to you saying, I want the truth. I think that right there, it's a test of the parameters and the boundaries set in place for you guys' relationship. So you're testing that boundary.
Parents not have the right to say, I don't want to give it to you now?
You can.
They have
very much so. Yes. That's their right.
They're still superior than us. I mean,
right. I'm not saying that. It's still a level of. Oh, we continue.
I was just saying, yes, you have complete right to do that. But if they go outside of you to find the answer because they want it that bad, I'm not saying that they're right for doing that, and I'm not saying that you're wrong for withholding it. but don't be surprised if it happens. You know what I'm saying?
Because I wanted to touch on Sanai's question, because she asked specifically what happens with children who are neglected. And I think a lot of it's some children out here who do not have parents. You have to realize that. So that's what I'm saying. You have to actually build some form of a village or some form of a family, even when it does not feel like it. Because I think a lot of people lean on other people's parents because they don't have it.
Right. That's true. Jonah, what you have to say?
Okay. No, I agree, Dea. Yes. Your point was very valid.
You gotta recognize the neglect.
Right. Yeah. And I definitely agree. But wait, there was something that you said, Zayla, about overprotective parents. Overprotective parents usually lead to sneaky children, and they always try to go behind their parents' back to get the answers that their parents don't let them experience.
That's very true,
and
that's very
so both extremes can lead to failure.
Right, but then again, the neglect that Dea is talking about is impactful too.
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much on the neglect part because I don't know where that neglect is coming from, and I'm not going to make an ill-informed judgment on it.
Oh, that's true.
I think
and then I feel like an overprotective parent could look at my parents and call that neglection, like.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
ooh, that's
very
deep.
true. Because there's so much hands off.
Right.
Going off of what Jayla,
like, what really is neglect?
Going off of what Jayla just said, well, with the parent seeing the other parent, is it okay? I have this question: is it okay for a parent to tell another parent how to parent?
No.
Well,
I hate when parents do that.
Well, hold on. I think that we should not equate advice and because come on, if there are parents who have been parents, like you have a new mom versus somebody who's has a 14-year-old daughter, like I feel like there's wisdom to be given here. Now I don't know what y'all mean by telling another parent how to parent.
Can I give an example? Okay, so say for instance a parent decides to let their child go to a party. And then another parent sees that and calls the parent and like, you shouldn't let your child go to parties. That's not good for them. That doesn't help them in the future. Don't do that because this, that, and that, and that. That's being old. Like, why are you that? That's none of your business. What I let my child do is none of your business. I didn't ask for your opinion. I didn't ask for your advice. You gave something that was not necessary.
But I think it's a separation. I'm sorry, I'll pass it on to you. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm just saying I can't touch on that right now because I lack the experience to really know.
Personally, I
really know what.
Like
to really know. I've never been a parent.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I feel like in a child's place, like personally, for somebody that I trust and I've grown up with, like Jayla's family, if Jayla's family wanted to give my parents some how to parent or advice on parenting me, Jayla's family knows me. Like Jayla knows I'm allergic to this. I'm like, she knows me. So if they are giving advice on how to deal with people like me, I feel like my parents would be open and my parents should be open.
But at the end of the day, yes, Jayla's parents could give your parents advice, but the decision that your mom makes for you, Jayla's parents can't be mad about that. You know, like they would never, Jayla's parents would never ever be like, to your mom, why would you let Sanai do that? Jayla's parents can give her advice, and that's it. Literally, that's all they can do. They can't make the decision for your mom. You know
I
what
want
I'm saying?
to go ahead and marry this. So where can we find the compromise?
In conversation.
The solvency.
Yeah.
Find it in conversation. Because, like I said before, boundaries are being tested, and like 100% of the time, you probably won't get the answer that you deserve.
I agree.
I was, like I said before, dark ages. It took me 2 years to really get close to my mother, to have her tell me what it is because she knew that's what I needed. That's the only thing that was really stopping me from having that relationship. Because I think we both wanted it, but we both didn't know how. And it's the being able to trust one another with the truth and not abuse the truth for our own benefits.
Honestly, and I've been doing this the whole conversation because I feel like this is it's so much here.
Right.
And I get as kids, like, I'm kind of taking the parent side on this one. And I get as kids is annoying. But I think at the end of it, we can all agree that, like we said before, parents are people. We are people.
Right.
And I'm going to be that person again. I hate to be that person every time. But at some point, you have to realize that I feel like kids can be narcissistic. And you have to realize that, yes, there are, in an ideal world, you want a good relationship.
Right.
You want this, you want that. But you may not get that. You have to be okay. Luckily, I have been able to receive that. But I know that the work that I'm set out to do, the gifts that God gave me, goes bigger than my parents. Goes bigger than me. And I'm not going to let anybody stop that. So we have to accept that we gonna have to get it regardless.
I agree with you because I think I had to come to an acceptance and saying, hey, maybe I'm not going to have a relationship the way I want to have a relationship. Maybe I'm not going to have a communication the way I want to have a communication.
That is definitely a process.
Right. And I feel like if you force the process, it can never be fulfilled the way the way it should be.
Right. And you can have
I don't want to rush the process.
And you can have that relationship with other people. Like on Zayla's point in the previous podcast, of course you have your parents, you have your family, but you can also talk to other people and have that.
The village is strong, people. Where's the village is strong.
And it definitely, like, you want a connection with the people, you know, who literally created you.
You do.
You really do. But I think that there are tons of stories of either kids, you know, who are adopted, or who have, you know, their friends' parents, or, you know, somebody else in their life has functioned as a parent. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, biological parents, you get it, you want that relationship, but don't be scared to find it in somebody else, because the goal is to get it.
But then again, that's a slippery slope, because do you feel as if it is somebody else's responsibility to parent you?
We're talking about in terms of like adopting or something.
I'm not saying that it is anybody's responsibility, but I'm saying that there are people who are naturally loving, who are signing up to love somebody unconditionally.
Right.
Do not turn down that love, because you are stuck in a stereotypical idea of what you're.
A one-way solution. The problem can be solved multiple ways.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I think that it's a difference between loving somebody unconditionally and then trying to parent them. You know what I'm saying? Because you can love somebody unconditionally, but that does not mean that you have to make every life choice for them. You don't have to lead them in the right direction.
I don't think parenting is making every life choice for them, regardless. So
I think
that last point one more time.
What you said.
Okay, so I'll say it again. So I think that.
It's okay.
Football. Move the base a little
Y'all
bit.
should really go get the book.
Yeah, y'all should. Okay, but I think that loving somebody unconditionally, I think that, are you saying like you know when to accept that unconditional love?
I feel like the role of a parent, like I said before, is to prep the child emotionally, physically. You know, it's just, I feel like parents are a launching pad for the real world, right? In the ideal world, your biological parents do that, but there are people who can literally, you know, kind of do those same things. It's not, I'm not going to lie, it's a different feeling when it comes from your biological parents. But what I was suggesting is that I know that's not the case for everybody. And the reason why I brought it up is because there are people who are like, you're not my dad. Like, all of that. Like, do not disregard those same, like, if this is the criteria for what parents are supposed to do, and there are like 4 people in your life who do that for you, that's your family. You have 4 parents, technically, by definition. Obviously, there's the biological side of it. That's all I was saying, is that do not deny.
Right, okay.
And going off of... Sorry. No, you have an actual point.
I was just going to say, like, the message got kind of convoluted with what Jayla was saying. Because I don't think that the people that you're talking about outside of parents are necessarily parenting. That was my problem. Because I was like, if I have resources outside of my mom that I can go to if I have a question about something. Like, but I wouldn't consider them a parent to me. But
so what makes a parent a parent?
What makes a parent a parent?
Other than you pushing somebody out. Or
see, we should have been established this.
I know, we started talking about a child and we just never got there.
I'm not sure what makes a parent a parent.
In my opinion, the term is flexible.
It is. It's very flexible. That's what I'm saying. In this day and age, it really varies now.
Can I be a parent to you?
No.
But you can.
If you can justify how.
No, I don't think so at all.
If she, let's say she has a question about something and her parents didn't answer or whatever, and I happen to know the answer to it in some form of with.
When I'm
advice and parenting, I'm
hearing that you need wisdom.
Answering a question and parenting.
That's what I'm saying though, because like that decision, I was thinking that what she was talking about, go to other sources. We'll go for advice.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not what I was talking about.
That's what I was thinking.
So, can you make the distinction between parenting from other people and advice?
Okay, here's what I'm talking about, right? In my opinion, the goal of a parent, right, like y'all said, by law, like food, shelter, clothing, education, all of that stuff. There are people who don't receive that from their biological parents. Right. Meaning that Or if they are, it's like they're getting like 2 out of the 3.
Right.
Meaning that your biological parent, in my opinion, is not a parent because you have not fulfilled the criteria that legally makes you a parent.
Oh, you're talking about that one. Okay, got it.
So if there are people in your life who choose to step in to fill some of those gaps, like food, like clothing, like emotional support and readiness. You know, what am I trying to say? If there are people who are stepping in, helping fill the gaps or complete the criteria of what is a parent, in my opinion, you are a parent.
Okay, to wrap it all.
No,
I wouldn't.
I
understand because you're talking about like I think of them as mentors. Like, is that what you're saying?
It's not a mentor.
I don't think,
because I'm like the only thing I feel like the only thing y'all was saying that makes a parent is like, oh, I live with my mom and da da da. That is not the situation for everybody.
I don't know.
No, I don't agree.
No, I think what many people are talking about here is the connection, the actual spiritual connection you have with the parent, and that's what I think you're attesting to. Correct? Is that what you're mentioning?
Yes.
Because I feel like based off of what y'all are saying, there are people out here who are parentless just with a bunch of mentors. I don't.
No. We did not define what parent was, and I think that's where we need to do that really quickly. Because I think, and then we'll crystallize.
I think, I don't know. It's kind of like, parenting is like a person that takes responsibility for a child.
Right.
That's where responsibility
like, you are mine. They literally claim you. Not claim.
So why can't somebody...
But you know, like...
You are their property.
Jayla... I was about to... Oh, Jayla Jackson. Jayla Jackson. You belong to Mr. Jackson. Well, not... You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right now, I agree. And there are people who are not biological parents who have no problem doing that. And you might see it as, oh, they don't live with them, so it's a form of a mentor. Nah,
they take that responsibility. I think it's good.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I keep doing this. Okay. I think there are parents out there who take that responsibility, claim that person as mine. Of course, somebody else can have responsibility of them too. But claim that person as mine, claim me as the other daughter, and want to pour into me just as I was living under that household every single time, and I was their own actual biological daughter. So I do believe other parents can fulfill the role of.
But I see
other people.
Because I feel like they're like, if like, let's say a kid were to get in trouble, and everybody know their parent ain't it, right? It's like, oh, if this child were to get in trouble, we take them to Mr. or Mrs. such and such.
No.
Because listen, because I feel like y'all are not acknowledging like what we have is like, it's rare with our parents.
Yeah, you're
it's so rare. And I've literally seen it to where other people literally act as a parent because their parents aren't anything.
But then again, I feel like that puts I don't want to say a burden because that's such a negative word, but like because that person that they're going to most likely has children of their own. So my thing is
that person automatically takes.
So my thing is, my question is, when does it become the other parent's responsibility to parent your child?
Hey, I don't think
like why is that? Why are you making that their obligation?
You're not making it that. I'm not. Nobody is forcing anybody to take on the mantle of acting as a parent for somebody. That's why I literally said in my definition: if there are people who are ready and able to act as a parent, do not shy away from that because they are not your biological.
Emphasis on the ready and able.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. I don't think people, who don't feel like, oh, my parent is parenting should walk around, hey, parent me. No, that's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying that there are people like, literally, if I was an adult and one of my children's friends, parent just like was not not doing their job, in my opinion, obviously there would be some more dynamics there.
Right.
I have no problem stepping in as a parent.
I think it really depends on the person.
Wait, can that impede on somebody else's parenting though? I mean,
they're not parenting at all.
That's what I'm saying. We're dealing with situations where the parenting is void.
Void as in like that figure is literally not there, or void as in like neglect.
It would be both almost.
I think it depends on the situation. We can't really just have.
Yeah.
That's why I said there are people where if your parents are legally supposed to provide you food, clothing, housing, if your parent only provides you with housing and fails to provide with food or clothing.
Oh, wait.
But Sanaa had a point. I feel like Sanaa had something to say.
I'm sorry. Wait. So, I'm considering like the relationship, like, because like, damn, she has like a best friendship with her mother. Like, I need to, the criteria that you're defining for a parent, what they need to provide. Is it the things that need to, you're talking about the bare minimum. Okay, food, water, shelter, clothing, blah, blah, blah. Yes. But what are the extras of being a parent that people don't realize? Because that extra, that it's extra to be a best friend. You don't need to be your mother's best friend.
There are people who step in for that part too.
Yes, but my question is feeding that relationship with your parent extra, or is that the necessity? Because I need that clarification from you.
Is one more time.
Like, you see how Daya and her mother are like best friends. They feed into the relationship, literally caring about one another, the relationship that they have. That is caring for the relationship in and of itself a need to you.
Ooh, and that's what I'm saying. It depends on the child. I'm not gonna lie. I do not have a best friend simulation with my mother. I do not need one. I'm not saying that you need one, but I feel like there are people who function better when their parents act as that. That's what I'm saying. It depends for every person. Right. But if you are a child who is being denied your legal legal requirements as a parent, along with the stuff that we know that's extra that we need, like, emotional reassurance, validation.
But the stuff that's extra though, like with the validation and all the things that you were about to list,
is that extra though?
I don't think it's extra, but like literally government mandated what is necessity. I think that is extra. Like just literally just based off of definition.
But necessity is it needs definition, because is that unconditional, that best friend love a necessity for a relationship?
It's a necessity for the mental stability for a child.
But honestly, you guys, like, I think the similarity that I'm seeing in all of ours is that, and this is what I'm saying, if we could kind of wrap it up.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Don't walk around with holes
Listen.
when they can be filled. Don't and we don't have to put a term on it. And I get that's probably where the issue is. Like, is that technically by term a parent? And And my opinion, you can act as a parent if that is not your child. But please do not walk around with holes, because falling into the stereotype that your biological parents are obligated to do that, some of that extra that you were talking about, and not receiving, you're not being filled up by places where you can get it. It's going to be the demise of some people. And the thought that people are walking around with holes, it pains me. Please fill yourself.
Right.
And also you can go. Off with Jayla, another solvency we reached was both parent and child need to be open. I feel like a child needs to be open to listening and taking that advice from the parent, and the parent also needs to be open to sharing at least a little bit, or having that conversation with the child.
And I think that we just always are so dope. Like, we just always dropping facts on y'all. And I just think that everything that we said in today's podcast is just so useful. And we just always are just here for each other. And I just am so happy about that. And overall, it was just a great day. So make sure y'all tune in next week, because one thing about us, we don't talk about it.